Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started. Today, the topic of our seminar is to make use of translation memory in Memsource. It is the second part of our seminar to introduce Memsource. We're going to look at how to import and export a translation memory and how to unlearn files in Memsource, and then how to work with term base to add terms in the term base. And then what can we do when a job is completed, and how to work with external machine translation engines, and then how to run quality assurance on our product. To introduce translation memory, it is a crucial part of CAD tools. In essence, it is a database of text that has been previously translated. For example, during segmentation, text is divided into smaller units or chunks, typically sentences or titles. So when a user confirms a segment in an edit, the original segment and its translation will be saved together as a pair into the translation memory as a translation unit. As they are already in selected translation memory, the segments that are automatically confirmed based on pre-translation settings will not be saved again, but their context will be added into the already existing translation memory. So confirmed segments from an existing project will be included in the newly created translation memory if it is already created and added to. So there are three major advantages of a translation memory. First, it allows translation to be reused. So the whole translation process will be expedited and the cost will be lowered because we can avoid repetition the translation of the same content. Also, it can be helpful in ensuring consistency in translation. It is also very important when some client has multiple translators working on the same project. They have to make sure that the translation of some content is consistent across the whole project. And a translation memory also serves as a long-term backup. So when a project or job is no longer available, linguists should confirm each segment they have to work on before move on to the next segment to ensure that the efforts on the previous segment will not be wasted. So it can be used as a backup in this sense. We have to confirm the translation first before we can move on to the next segment. Sometimes we can find that there is a penalty saying 101% and it is 1. What does it mean? This is an interface I took from translation memory under our testing material for today's seminar. So after I have created some project, some job, and I selected a translation memory to test it, and I can find that here is a penalty. So when more than 101% context match is found for a different target, then all 101% matches will be displayed as 100%, and then there is an arrow signifying that there is penalty. We have introduced what is a context match 101% means yesterday. Say when the same content is found in the new translation project and against the translation memory, the same content is already saved. So it will be scored as 100%. However, in some situations, if the content together with the context it occurs are the same as the record in the translation memory, the score is 101%. It means the content together with the context is exactly the same as the record in our translation memory. So if in some situation, the content is the same, but the context is different, it will be 100% context match. It's different, slightly different, caused by different context. So in pre-translation threshold, if it's set to 101%, that means segments with multiple matches will not be pre-translated because there could be multiple translation, multiple matches. And in analysis, segments with multiple 101% matches will only be counted as 100% matches. And then we have to select a translation memory for our project. In this example, I have created 2 translation memories before, so I select one, text for seminar. I would like to introduce an extra function about Memsource. It could align source file and target file for us. That is a very useful function if we're going to use corpus to create some materials for our research. We need to align our files before it can be imported as a corpus by some website. So align function is very important, and Memsource can provide this function. We go to this website and this page, translation memories, and we can find we can import, export. Also, we can build up our translation memories on 2 files. We need source file, target file. Sometimes we can align multiple files. We could have one source file, but we could have 2 different translations of the same source file. So we can select multiple files in this case. And then we choose original file, the language of its translation, and choose a target file, and press the button Align. Here is the alignment in the format of Excel. So we can inspect this file and correct any mistakes. Most of the sentences are already aligned sentence by sentence. However, we can find that there is a blank cell here. So we need to manually check them and input the content. This sentence has no translation. And this translation has no corresponding original sentence. So if a segment and its translation do not match, we may need to move, split, join, or delete, or even add content as appropriate. This is a manual procedure to match segments to edit its content. If we finish all the segments, we check all of them, the whole job is finished, is completed. We can preview our translation. For example, go to document, and we can find a lot of options are presented. We can accept job, decline job, complete job. Or before we want to complete it, we need to preview our translation. So we click pre-translation, preview translation, and say there is a Word file generated by Memsource. Even the title is given automatically, and then we can check the translation. For term-based, we can select the word we want to add to our term base from the source text. For example, if I want to select gaming disorder as a term, we can go to tools, press add term, or we use a shortcut Alt+T, means to add a term from the drop-down list under the menu. And then what would happen if we select a gaming disorder first and we choose add term? A window will be popped out to add a term. A source term, we can type it in or we can select it beforehand, but we have to type in the target term, which means the translation of the source term. We also can choose different settings here. Is it case sensitive, fuzzy match, or exact match? In this seminar, I only choose fuzzy match. So sometimes if we want to keep it is case sensitive, we have to tick this option to make sure that different case will be considered differently. After we finish filling up the content, the equivalents can be copied and pasted here or typed into the target term field. So the source term and target term will be added together as a pair to our term base, which has been created beforehand along with the project. If needed, one or both terms can be edited before being added to the term base. We can also edit it first. So after a term and its translation have been added to the term base, it will be shown in the cat pane whenever when translating a segment in which it occurs, it will be shown here. And the cat pane needs suggested terms from the term base for the active segment. If a term is in gray, it indicates a new term that hasn't been approved yet. While one highlighted in red means it has been rejected and should therefore be avoided. If we want to check the source term or target term, we can click on the term from the cat pane. It will open up the data term base. So a term is selected with details. They will be shown at the bottom of the pane. We can click Edit Source or Edit Target to open the Edit Term page. This is a Edit Term page. We can find the term is gaming disorder. Language and status is approved, and the match type is fuzzy. We can also choose if it is forbidden or case sensitive on this window. So this window will be popped out no matter we choose edit source or edit target. Suppose we are almost at last stage of our translation. We checked all the segments. They are all confirmed. And we want to tell the system that the job is going to be completed. We can press complete job. It can be found from the document button. From the drop-down list, we choose complete a job. And if we want to export it to a different format, we can choose export to bilingual doc file document. So what will we get if we choose export to bilingual Word file? So this is a file the system generates for us. We can find that there is a table, right? So the source text and the target text is put side by side, even with the scores. So when we choose option export to bilingual document, this Word file will be generated for us. Also, we can choose to download the complete file by putting a tick against the translation job in the project window and click on download. Yesterday, we have briefly introduced machine translation engines, right? The default machine translation engine now in phrase TMS is phrase translate. And it can have a few options. For example, we have Amazon Translate, DeepL, Google Translate, Microsoft Translator, and some translation engine needs to be subscribed beforehand with payment. So most of the cases we'll just choose default machine translation engines. And then we have to make sure that there is no misspelling or other segments that haven't been translated before finish our job. So we can run job quality assurance. It can be applied automatically or manually. And the results will be displayed in the quality assurance pane of the phrase editor. For example, I run a job quality assurance, and then we can find a missing term. The warnings contain missing term and unedited. This segment is not confirmed. And another warning is also missing term, because when I add gaming disorder to term base, I didn't choose case sensitive, so it will be not considered as a match. So the warning has been repeated here, missing term, missing term. Therefore, in the result window, we have to fix these issues before we can move on. Now we can click it to find out this is not a term that we have saved in the term base, or we could just add it to term base. And for this segment, it hasn't been confirmed, so I have to confirm it first. And eventually we can fix all the warnings from this list, or we could just tick ignore. For example, in this case, nearly 1 billion people worldwide could sweat in more frequent life. 1 billion, it says misnumber. This one is a missing number. So 1 billion, what should we translate it? In Chinese, it is 10亿. Therefore, it is not translated incorrectly. It was translated together with this word, billion. So I will choose it as ignore, to tell the system to ignore this issue. Thank you.